Hello friends, welcome back to the channel Sarvani Ideas Quest. So now in this video I'll be discussing about Introduction to Ethereum. Previously, as we know, blockchain is a list of records that are stored across a sequence of blocks which are chained together using cryptography. Now let us move into a specific example of a blockchain network which is known to be Ethereum. Ethereum is a decentralized open source public blockchain based platform with the featuring of smart contract functionality. So now let us understand this definition by breaking them into some components. Firstly, Ethereum is a decentralized network, right? So decentralized network, which means that the blockchain is not stored or maintained by a single node. Not only stored and maintained by a single node, it can also do with multiple nodes. Fine. Also, the other fact is it's an open source public blockchain. This means whatever the code which the code which implements the blockchain network, that is available for the alter view. And this makes it more transparent in some of the other blockchain networks available. Fine. And one of the most crucial information about the Ethereum network is fact that anybody can join the network, join the Ethereum blockchain network. Fine. Which makes a public blockchain network. So these features can also use to describe things to decide between same things can be decided of Bitcoin network and many other cryptocurrencies like Zcash. But what makes Ethereum different between them means a fact that it supports not merely transactions involved in the transaction of cryptocurrency. Okay, not only it involves the transaction, the transfer of cryptocurrency, but with the implementation of smart contracts. That is what the clear difference between other bitcoins and other cryptocurrencies with the Ethereum. Okay. With the implementation of smart contracts, we can pretty much define any kind of transaction ranging from the transactions of assets, transfer of assets, to the implementation of the voting system. And if there is any transaction which you can define using a code, then smart contracts will definitely help you with the implementation. Fine. That is what the clear definition of this Ethereum. Now let us look at some characteristics of Ethereum. Firstly, this is a very much a blockchain based platform. This means that Ethereum is used to store a number of different records on a blockchain network, and to specify the contents of the records of the Ethereum transaction. As with any record in the blockchain, these transactions in the Ethereum network are immutable and verifiable. That is what the first meaning of blockchain. They are immutable and verifiable. Coming to the second, the fact that Ethereum is open source. That means there is a community of developers who are constantly making the bug fixes and adding new features. So you can either join the community if you fulfill the criteria, or you can keep an eye on their features or their release cycles. Okay. So mostly people involvement will be within the Ethereum. However, it will be very simply to join the network as a node. Okay. Very simple to join the network as a node, and then invoke transactions which will be defined in a smart contract. Fine. The transactions which will be defined in a smart contract, and then for that no one will have any restrictions who can only the particular people have to join. No one will have the restriction as long as you have the requisite of the hardware and the software. Okay, when you have the requisite with the hardware and software, you will be allowed to join. And okay, I'll cover this later on with how there are different levels of particular participation you can have within the network. Okay, that is what about community of developers. And now moving to the third one, I said anyone can join the network. Of course, when you open up with the network so that anyone can participate in it, then there will be some instances, right? So instances where some nodes will try to bend the rules of the system. So to prevent this from happening, they need to be a mechanism. Fine, the mechanism to work with some untrusted nodes in place where allow participants to work with other nodes whom they don't trust, right? That means for this purpose, Ethereum separately implements something known as a proof of work consensus algorithm. Okay, for this mechanism, Ethereum separately work on with a proof of work. Proof of work in the sense consensus algorithm. Proof of work of a consensus algorithm. Hope you guys get my point. Okay, however, this is something we'll cover in depth later. Fine. Now let's move with the last thing. Since one of the most distinguishing characteristic of Ethereum network with the ability to run smart contracts, right? It is the most important, and just what smart contract is what differed from rest of the cryptocurrencies of blockchain, right? So many of the nodes can participate, so they need to have the Ethereum virtual machine. Okay, whenever the people they start working with the Ethereum blockchain, Ethereum cryptocurrency, then people participating nodes need to have the Ethereum virtual machine. Okay, Ethereum virtual machine, EVM, on their systems. Okay, so what EVM does, like EVM allows nodes to execute smart contracts. Okay, it allows nodes to execute smart contracts. Also, and those who are familiar with the Java programming, okay, people who are familiar with the Java programming, as similar to the EVM, thinking of EVM as being similar to the Java virtual machine. So while the Java virtual machine will allow you to run the Java bytecode, fine. EVM allows nodes to the smart contracts, and those of who you are familiar with the Java programming can in fact think of the EVM as being similar to the Java virtual machine. While Java virtual machine will allows you to run the Java bytecode, whereas similarly EVM will allow to run with the Ethereum bytecode. Fine, hope you get the clear clarity about this. And next, Ethereum bytecode is what you can obtain while you compile your smart contracts. So what in depth about smart contracts? Now let us see that. So the definition of the smart contract, like as we discussed earlier, it's a protocol. Okay, a protocol to digitally verify, specify or enforce the terms of a contract. So I just go a little deeper with the smart contract. Like we can simply say it is a piece of executable code. Okay, piece of executable code. As it's a piece of executable code, like here we have a number of high-level programming languages, right? As there are number of high-level programming languages, here smart contracts can be defined and they can be compiled to an executable form, right? Smart contract can be compiled to an executable form. Hope you get my point. Executable form in the sense that is to be like which the smart contract can be executed on the Ethereum virtual machine. Okay, Ethereum virtual machine. So the code of the smart contract will be represented specifically by the contractual classes. Now what is this contractual classes? Contractual clauses, sorry, clauses. This is something like, for example, consider this. A deposit holder, okay, if an interest amount needs to be paid by the deposit holder in a bank, then the value of both the interest payment as well as the timing, okay, deposit holder, then both the values will be added, interest payment and timing. Okay, the value of the interest payment as well as the timing of it can be defined within the contractual terms. That is what known to be contractual clauses. Okay, so the smart contract itself will not be private. By this itself, it will not be private, but in fact, like will be deployed to, like we can say, Ethereum net. These things can also be deployed to the Ethereum network, right? And will be available for all the people to see, as they are not private, right? So while the smart contract can be defined in such a way that not everyone will be able to invoke the transactions. Okay, when everyone not they will not be able to invoke the transaction from it, the code itself will be publicly available. That is what the top matter here. Code itself will be publicly available. Okay, and the important feature of the smart contract is that we can say they need not to involve with any human interaction. Okay, any human interaction involvement is not needed. Fine. Okay, I'll write this also. No involvement of humans. Okay, we don't need any involvement of human, and like they can be defined as a self-executing, as a self-enforcing thing. Fine. So this smart contract is defined for such a way where human involvement is not needed. The code itself will be run to the executable form as a Ethereum virtual machine into the cases of contractual clauses. So the code itself will be publicly available. We don't need any human involvement. By that, it can be defined as a self-executing as well as self-enforcing. Self-executing or self-enforcing. Fine. And an important thing to keep in mind is like when you call the function, okay, when you call the function which have been defined within the smart contract, okay, when you are doing with the code, so when you call the function defined within the smart contract of those functions, then it happen to change the state of a blockchain. Okay, the blockchain state will be changed, or the smart contract itself, then the transaction will be invoked. Fine, hope you guys get my point. When you call a function which has been defined within the smart contract, if those functions happen to change the state of blockchain or the smart contract state of a blockchain, then itself the transaction will be invoked. Fine. So in this example I just cited like transferring over interest payment to the account holder. So that will constitute a transaction and contents of the transactions fee. So that will be stored as a record on the Ethereum blockchain. This is how Ethereum blockchain works. Fine. As I stated, transferring over interest payments. So all this payment, the timing things, all these things will be recorded. I mean, they will be stored in a Ethereum blockchain as a record. Fine. This is what known to be Ethereum blockchain.